Another Netflix film just dawned on me. 3 Netflix films in a row. But this one is called Alive or hashtag Alive. This is a new South Korean zombie film. It was directed by Cho Il-hyung, and it stars Yoo Ah-in, who you might recognize from Burning, and somebody else, Park Sing-hye, who I was unaware of until I saw this movie, but I will mention her again briefly. So, like I said, this just came out on Netflix. It takes place during a zombie apocalypse happening in Seoul, Korea. And in Seoul, you might understand, of course, that there are a lot of apartment complexes that are bunched together. So the premise of this movie is, what if you are in this case, a young man or a young woman in one of these apartment complexes, you're in your apartment, you're by yourself, and all of a sudden the zombie apocalypse happens. Tons of people all around you are turning into zombies. The people who are not zombies are quickly dying, and you are essentially trapped. And these zombies in particular are slightly smarter. They can mimic behaviors of what they were like as humans. It's a little similar to Dead Don't Die, but we've seen this sort of thing in some of the Romero ones, where some of them can open doors. Some of them can climb buildings, like if they were a firefighter, for example. So it adds this sort of unpredictability to the zombies, meant to terrify our central protagonist, who is Yoo Ah-in. He's kind of a melodramatic loner, which very similar to his Burning character, but different in a lot of key ways. And we watch him as he goes weeks of trying to survive. This is a more survivalist zombie thriller than some of the more action-heavy ones we've seen in the past. And the thing that I do think is pretty interesting about this film, that it does differently with the zombie aesthetic, because I'm sick of zombies. I am. A lot of people are. I certainly am. Just got through Last of Us Part 2. That was a lot of zombie for me. And so I've gotten my zombie fix for 2020. It was already pretty low. So watching this film was hard. I had to sort of force myself to see it because I was curious in the talent behind the camera and, of course, in the central performances. And I'm glad I saw this because despite how generic and conventional it can kind of be with zombie rules, it doesn't try a lot of new things. It still told a unique idea, or it still told something differently about the zombie apocalypse, which is, what if it happened during the height of our social media age? I feel like this episode is extra about social media. I don't know why, but that is absolutely the case. And so just rolling with it. But in the case of Alive, I think it is pretty effective because it's, as the name sort of implies, it's sort of getting at how we would be able, left to our own devices these days. A lot of us aren't survivalists like, people of a previous generation or several generations ago would have been, but we do still have our own strengths and our own resources. And one of them is social media, using it to broadcast yourself, or using it to telegraph where you are, and using it to keep yourself sane. This is yet another film that is, I hate to say the word, but timely, considering a lot of us for a majority of this year have been kind of trapped at home and felt like everything around us is on fire, me in particular, considering what's going on in California right now. And so a lot of that does make this film kind of hard to sit through, because I don't know about you all, I'm not in the mood to be reminded of how inconvenient and just how uncertain and anxious this whole thing can feel. Alive is certainly a heavy, heavy extreme of that, of course, but it's still tackling on those feelings of isolation and feeling like the world is slowly falling apart and there's nothing you can do about it. And that's kind of the first half of the movie. And I think if you can get through that first half, which is pretty tough, it sort of shifts into something a little bit better than its previous. I think the first half does a great job to really nail down the rules of this world, to nail down how limited our character is, so that the second half can sort of prosper. And I think that is done to very good effect, and why I ended up kind of liking this movie a good bit and recommend it to anyone who is not too sick of zombie films. And I have to credit a lot of it to Park Sing-hye. So she's an actress who's much better known in South Korea. I was not aware of her. For me, both the character and the actress just sort of come out of nowhere. And as soon as she comes along, there is something about her where her presence and the way that she commands a scene are immediately revealing. And the thing I like most about this film is that it has introduced me to what could be one of the better actors working today. I just had no idea. And so I did a little bit of research and I found out, she is considered one of the best actors right now in South Korea, especially for her age. We're like the same age. She was like 29, 30. And I really hope that this Netflix zombie movie introduces a lot of Americans like me, a lot of people out here in the West, to this actor, because she could be like an A-lister upon an A-lister in terms of talent alone. So I think that this is a great discovery for me personally, and an actor, like I said, a lot of people are already aware of. And on top of that, we get Yu In, who is, of course, very good. And I thought he really, he really brought it in Burning. And in here, he continues what I think is a good streak of films that understand what is so intriguing about him as an actor, as sort of a very flawed, but almost kind of relatable and sympathetic idiot in a lot of cases. And that's certainly the case in Alive. I do want to recommend this one. I think that it is worth checking out. Again, if you can get through the first half, and I'm really glad I saw this. I'm glad I forced myself to watch another zombie movies. I'm a high B, almost a B plus. I think that, yeah, there are of course shortcomings, and I think that it's not the flashiest film. The action isn't that great, but there are really exciting scenes. I think it's well staged. I think it's a great concept and has great actors. So high B for me, almost a B plus. I definitely hope people check it out. So that is #Alive.